Rumor or not, I would not put it past either Amazon or the showrunners to use this major location as a way of baiting people into watching the second season of this shit show. Hello, this is Mara Jade, and I'm back with another video, and what is this major location from Lord of the Rings? Well, it's none other than Rivendell, or Imladris in the Elven language. And why? Is this another example of butchering and disrespect of the lore established by Tolkien? Well, let's just go into the article so we can get a gauge of that, and then I'm going to show you the timeline yet again and why this does not at all make any fucking sense. So without further ado, here it is. Amazon may be riding high on the success of its current fantasy hit, The Wheel of Time, but there's always something else brewing. The studio has been hard at work on the follow-up to last year's new series based on the works... nothing is fucking at all based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien in this series. Rings of Power. Oh, that also only 37% of those who began the season actually finished it. So yeah. Good fucking job, Amazon. The series wrapped filming on a second season in July, just before the SAG-AFTRA actors strike got underway. We're still a ways off from being able to watch it, but we're hearing whispers about a major location from Lord of the Rings we may see in Season 2. Fanside Fellowship of Fans has some interesting news about the Rings of Power Season 2, but before we get into it, we need to give a spoilers warning. Only 37% of people finished Season 1, so really, no one gives a fucking shit. But anyway, so it's Rivendell, according to the Fellowship of Fans. So reports Rings of Power Season 2 will feature the return of one of the most iconic locales from both The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, Rivendell, where Elrond makes his home during the Third Age of Middle-earth. The Rings of Power is set during the Second Age. At this point in the timeline, Rivendell hasn't yet been established. We'll likely see that come to pass during Season 2. In Tolkien's lore, Elrond sets out from Lindon at the head of an elven army in order to aid the elves of Eregion. Okay, Elrond is the actual fucking commander of the elven army. Alright, not Galadriel, not that bullshit from the series, who are under attack from Sauron's forces. Okay, because Sauron has now revealed himself to Middle-earth. That he has been Anatar the elf for a long time. He manipulated the elves into creating the Rings of Power and so forth. And surprise, now he has the One Ring. And he's trying to lay waste to the elves and other races in Middle-earth at this point. Okay? However, Elrond arrives too late, finding Eregion already overrun. Okay, that includes the death of Celebrimbor, but... Alright? He and his ragtag group of survivors... Okay. The Noldor, alright? They're not a fucking ragtag group of survivors, okay? Right? They're survivors of his forces, okay, the Noldor, who make their journey from the Eregion, okay? They're driven back, and Elrond establishes Imladris, okay? The fact that you fucking call it a ragtag group of survivors, I want to punch my monitor. Fall back and fortify a stronghold at Rivendell, which lays the groundwork for it to become Elrond's seat of power down the road in the Third Age. Alright, now why does this make any fucking sense, okay? Alright, so a little thing, Amazon, okay, it was revealed well before the series premiere that Amazon did not have the rights to anything dealing with the Second Age. None of the books, and I say books, meaning plural, because you still have shows out there who like to claim that Tolkien never established much of anything in the Second Age, so they're going to shill for Amazon and how they had to fill in all the holes that supposedly Tolkien left, but books that Tolkien wrote, right, he wrote the Silmarillion before The Lord of the Rings, but the publishers wanted to publish The Lord of the Rings first, and then his son Christopher Tolkien published the other books post J.R.R. Tolkien's death from the notes of his father, right? So Tolkien pretty much established most of fucking everything dealing with the Second Age, even before his death, alright? He had notes upon notes upon notes upon notes, alright? He was the most meticulous, painstakingly intrinsic author to the utter annoyance of his publishers, alright? Okay? But anyway, but Amazon has the rights to The Lord of the Rings, okay, which includes appendices, which they have the rights to. And what's in the appendices? A fucking timeline. A fucking timeline of the Second Age. Alright? which is what the show is supposedly dealing with, okay? Now, when are the Rings of Power? When does that start? When did the creation of the Rings of Power start? Well, according to the timeline, the thing that these shills claim that does not exist, the Elven-smiths in 1500, year 1500 of the Second Age, instructed by Sauron he's in disguise, okay, as Anatar, right? Reach the height of their skill. They begin forging the Rings of Power, alright? This is what the show is fucking based around, the fucking Rings of Power, that shit, alright? 1500, alright? It takes them 90 years, between 90 and 100 years, okay, to complete the Rings of Power. So for 100 years, Sauron's in disguise, until he reveals himself in the year 1600, when he forges the One Ring, okay, and completes the Barad-dûr. Right, according to the fucking timeline that I'm reading. Celebrimbor perceives the designs of Sauron, alright? That's 1600. Now, when does the war between the elves and Sauron begin? 93 fucking years later! In 1693, War of the Elves and Sauron begins. The three rings are hidden, right? So they hide the three rings that we saw in Season 1, created by Celebrimbor in name only. And, the human dickhead that's the stand-in for Sauron. I can't even remember the asshole's name, and I really don't fucking care to remember the character's name. Alright? So they hide the three rings. 2 years later, Sauron's forces invade Eriador. Gil-galad sends Elrond to Eregion. Okay, 2 years later, in 1697, so nearly 100 years after Sauron reveals himself, Eregion is laid waste. Death of Celebrimbor. The gates of Moria are shut. Elrond retreats with the remnant of the Noldor and founds the refuge of Elamdras, aka Rivendell. So nearly 100 years after Sauron completes forges the One Ring and completes Barad-dûr, does this all transpire. Timeline be fucking damned. Lore be fucking damned. Respect at all be fucking damned in this series, because this does not at all make any fucking sense, because at this point in the juncture, in the timeline, all the Rings of Power are created, the One Ring is forged, alright? And this happens, Rivendell, right, founded as a refuge, happens nearly 100 years after the One Ring is created, nearly 200 years after the Rings of Power, the Elven-smiths begin forging them. 200 years, roughly, over the course of the timeline. Makes no fucking sense. But according to this, we're going to see, alright, possibly images of elven soldiers, armored and ready for war. Well, in this series, Elrond is no longer the commander of the army, so why the fuck would Gil-galad send him? Why the fuck would Elrond at all need to pull back the forces to Rivendell? Because remember, Galadriel is now commander of the army according to this timeline, according to the showrunners and Amazon and Rings of Power. So why the fuck would Elrond even need to be there? He's a fucking herald in this series. So this all leads us to think the massive battle we've been hearing about may involve Rivendell. In Tolkien's lore, following Elrond and the elves retreat from Eregion, Sauron's forces pursue them and lay siege to Rivendell. Eventually the Númenóreans show up and help win the day, but it's a dicey affair. And why the fuck would any Númenóreans show up at all? Why the fuck would they care at this point? They're given no fucking reason at all, necessarily, to even help the elves. To even help anyone in Middle-earth. Alright, so the early reports about the battle in Rings of Power Season 2 claimed it would feature a number of important characters, including the twisted elf, evil elf Adar, non-canonical hood elf Erendir, Elrond in name only, Isildur in name only, and a new human character, so non-canonical, named Estrid. Those reports had it that the battle would be a 2-episode spectacular. Again, only 37% of people finished the series, so who would fucking care about it at this point? With Erendir and Elrond manning the walls of Eregion to fight against Adar's army of orcs. Again, Elrond is not the commander of the Elven army in this series, so why the fuck would he even need to be there? Why the fuck would he even need to leave Lindon? Alright? Why? You've established that Galadriel in name only is the commander of the army, so why the fuck would even Elrond need to be there? If all these projections hold true, then perhaps we'll see the fall of Eregion in one episode and the Siege of Rivendell in the following one. All of the characters mentioned above could be present. We haven't seen Baldri's Isildur since late in Season 1 when he went missing during the volcanic eruption in the Southlands. Mordor, basically, they showed us the creation of Mount Doom, which again disrespects lore, but that's another video. Perhaps you'll be part of the Numenorian force that breaks the siege. Again, why the fuck would the Numenorians even remotely at all care at this point? Why they would at all care at this point, it makes absolutely no fucking sense. But anyway, there it is, chat. Again, like more butchering of the lore if this is at all true, but again, like I said, I would not put it past Amazon or the showrunners to include Rivendell because of member berries and to bait people into watching the second season of this series. But at any rate, what are your thoughts down in the comments below? Did you watch Season 1? Did you finish Season 1? I was one of the 37% that fucking finished the season, and I roasted it every episode, so which I'm going to do to Season 2. So I'll probably be one of, like, maybe, at most 20% that all watch the second season, and I'm probably being generous in that estimate. But at any rate, what are your thoughts down in the comments below? I'll be live later tonight on my Kick, playing some more of the Mortal Kombat 1 story. I'll be suffering along through it, so come hang out then. I also have a poll on my Twitter, so if you follow me on Twitter, I'm going to be getting a Mortal Kombat cosplay / Halloween costume, and so far, Jade is winning. Jade is winning the poll, so if you want your girl to win, go vote on the poll on my Twitter. So if you like this video, leave a thumbs up, share on social media if you will. This is Mara Jade, catch you on the dark side, and fucking blatant disrespect to Tolkien, but go on, shills. Keep claiming this is all respects anything Tolkien did. Fucking assholes.